Snails C tier, Allosaurus B tier, Angler A tier, Anki S tier, Spider C tier, RG S tier, C tier, Berry takes A tier, Bassies S tier, Frog A tier, Bronto S tier, Turtle C tier, Carno B tier, Beavers A tier, Callies B tier, Compy D tier, Healing Pig S tier, Dilo C tier, Dimetrodon B tier, Dimorph C tier, and then C tier, D tier, Dire Bear A tier, Dire Wolf high A tier, Dodo absolute god, Doedicurus S tier, Dung Beetle A tier, Dunk A tier, Horse C tier, Galley D tier, Giga S tier, Giganto A tier, this thing C tier as well, this thing removed from the game, Itchy S tier, you'll see in a bit. Iguanodon B tier, Penguin A tier, removed from the game, Kentro C tier, Mammoths S tier, Manta C tier, A tier, Megs B tier, Megalos high A tier, Megatherium S tier, this thing C tier, removed from the game, Mosas A tier, C tier, removed from the game, Otters A tier, Oviraptor B tier, Ovis A tier, Double Packy C tier, Parasaur B tier, Parasaur B tier as well, Pego remove, Pelagornis B tier, Phiomia A tier, Plesiosaur B tier, Kangaroo A tier, PT S tier, Scorpion C tier, Badger A tier, Quetzal S tier, sure, Raptor B tier, why not, Rexes absolute S tier, Sabers high B tier, Sarco C tier, Spinos my favorite S tier, Stegos B tier, Tappy B tier as well, Terrorbird C tier, Theries S tier for sure, Thyla A tier, Titan Boa C tier, Titans A tier sure, Trikes B tier, Trudon remove, Tusos S tier, Rhinos B tier sure, and the UT A tier. So for S tier, these four are pretty essential, bosses and etc. For flyers, you got your RG and then Quetz, followed by PT. Those five pretty useful for gathering specific stuff. Healing Pig, it's the only healing tame on the island, so that's that. Bassi and Tuso produce oil. Now for the Itchies, they're essentially the PT of the sea, and they may as well be your first tame, your first water tame, and they're used for tame Bassis, pretty useful. Now in A tier, some pretty niche ones, or tames that are good at doing their specific things. So UT, buffing your dinos in boss fights. Wolves can be used in all caves. Stylas, excellent cave runners. Berries as well. Megalo, only good at night. Absolutely demolishes Rexes. Pearls, CP wood, basically a worse mammoth. Thatch machine, those two are fiber, and those two are fertilizer. Kangaroo, who doesn't love a good old roo? Badger holds your stuff. Otters can hold artifacts. Titan gives XP. Organic polymer, and then this is for meat. Now, this is the Giga of the Sea, but very limiting because you can only use them in underwater. But he's great for caves. The Dunk, he is the Anki of the Sea, limiting as well. At the very top of B tier, we have Saber. If you couldn't put a saddle on him, he'd be in C tier. Those three carnivores, you can go ahead and get them, but be sure to replace them with something like a Rex in the late game. Tappies, they would be in C tier if they didn't have their 360 movement. Pelagornis farms organic polymer, but why bother? Stegos, Trikes, pretty much the same thing. Stegos are slightly better. Parasaurs, they are underestimated a lot. They are like really good in the early game, and yeah, they may as well be your first tame as well. Uh, Oviraptor, if you're really bored in the late game, go ahead and get one. The boosted egg rate is pretty fun. The Cali, if you want to tame one, you're gonna not get your jar back because they just literally eat the whole thing. Iguanodon, infinite stam, but kind of underwhelming. Woolly Rhino, literally no one uses them. Parasaur, the only reason they're in B tier is because they have the Plat Saddle. Dimetrodon, just make your own AC. Plesiosaurs, they are better than Megs, but if you're looking for a higher level one and you stumble upon a 150 Meg, go ahead and tame that. Now in C tier, it's all just food, and meat. And finally, in D tier, we have two useless dinos, and then the rest can be removed from the game. Please, dear wildcard.